Lock him out. Danielle Smith draws the line. Mark Carney's agenda faces a wall in Alberta. Alberta stands at a crucial turning point, with Premier Danielle Smith stepping up as a fierce defender of the province's rights and interests in the face of the new federal government led by Prime Minister Mark Carney. Since Carney's unexpected snap election victory on April 28, 2025, tensions between Ottawa and Alberta have surged, highlighting a growing divide over how the country's wealth and power should be shared. Smith's message is simple but powerful. Alberta will no longer accept being pushed aside or treated as a second-class partner within Canada. She's drawing a clear line and demanding that the federal government respect Alberta's unique needs and ambitions. One of the most hotly debated issues under Smith's leadership is the fight over Canada's supply management system, the complex web of quotas and tariffs that regulate dairy, poultry, and egg production. While originally intended to protect farmers and stabilize markets, this system has become a deeply entrenched arrangement that overwhelmingly favors producers in Quebec and Ontario. Despite Alberta's population exceeding 11% of the national total, the province holds less than 9% of the dairy quota, a disparity that frustrates many Albertans. This imbalance drives up prices for consumers across the province and puts Alberta's hardworking farmers at a disadvantage, limiting their ability to expand and compete fairly in the marketplace. At recent Alberta Next panel events, Smith has been refreshingly candid about her willingness to challenge the status quo by considering Alberta's exit from the federal supply management regime. She floated the idea of establishing an Alberta-specific dairy system, one that could serve as a stepping stone toward a freer and more competitive market. But beyond economics, this stance sends a bold political signal to Ottawa and Quebec's powerful agricultural lobby. Alberta will no longer tolerate policies that disproportionately benefit others while holding back its own people and economy. It's a wake-up call to federal politicians that Alberta is serious about fighting for fairness. Smith's ambitions don't stop at supply management reform. She's also pressing for Alberta to receive a status comparable to Quebec's, which includes significant control over policing, pensions, and constitutional rights. These issues have dominated discussions at the Alberta Next panels, where Smith has taken the rare step of traveling the province to listen directly to constituents. Independence remains a powerful undercurrent in these conversations, as many Albertans grow weary of decades spent feeling ignored, exploited, or marginalized by federal decision-makers. The sentiment is clear. Alberta must have more say in its own future, or it risks continued political and economic neglect. Agricultural and trade experts have weighed in on the feasibility of Alberta stepping away from supply management. Some believe Alberta's relatively small stake in the current quota system uniquely positions the province to disrupt a system that has resisted change for decades. An Alberta-based dairy commission, proponents say, could innovate in ways a federally controlled system cannot, potentially opening new markets and allowing Alberta's farmers to thrive on their own terms. However, there are no illusions about the hurdles ahead. Questions remain about how Alberta's dairy products would be treated by other provinces, how federal regulations might complicate inter-Canadian trade, and how a new provincial system would navigate existing import limits and tariff structures. Not everyone is convinced unilateral action is the best path forward. Critics, including seasoned trade lawyers, argue that Alberta must carefully consider the wider repercussions of breaking from supply management alone. They suggest that a coordinated effort between federal and provincial governments to phase out supply management across the country would mitigate economic disruption and foster more equitable solutions. But to many Albertans, such warnings ring hollow, serving only to protect entrenched interests that have long resisted meaningful reform. For them, these arguments are another excuse for Ottawa to keep the status quo that disadvantages Alberta. This frustration isn't isolated to Alberta. Across the country, citizens in provinces like Newfoundland, New Brunswick, and Ontario have expressed similar grievances about federal neglect and uneven treatment. What we're witnessing is a growing chasm in Canadian federalism, a struggle over fairness, respect, and the fundamental balance of power between Ottawa and the provinces. Many Canadians feel their concerns fall on deaf ears, fueling calls for deeper reforms or even new political arrangements. The supply management debate was thrust into sharper focus earlier this year when an Alberta egg farmer was imprisoned following a quota dispute. This high-profile case put a spotlight on how rigid and punitive the current system can be and added fuel to the growing calls for reform. It's clear why Smith's Alberta Next panels have become such critical forums, giving Albertans a platform to voice their frustrations, share their stories, and shape policies that reflect their lived realities. Despite criticism from some corners of the media, these town halls have proven to be a refreshing example of responsive and participatory leadership in action. For Mark Carney's federal government, Alberta's demands present a significant challenge. Will Ottawa choose to listen and engage constructively with Smith's calls for supply management reform, provincial policing powers, and constitutional recognition of Alberta's unique position? Or will it continue to ignore or dismiss these concerns, deepening the sense of alienation and resentment? This moment is about more than just policy tweaks. It's about respect, dignity, and ensuring Alberta is a full and equal partner in Canada's future. Smith's leadership has galvanized many Albertans who feel their province has long been overlooked and misunderstood by federal politicians. By standing firm and openly challenging Ottawa, she is channeling a growing determination to reclaim Alberta's voice and rights. Whether through negotiation or bolder action, Alberta's resolve to protect its interests and demand fairness is stronger than ever. The months ahead will be critical for the future of Alberta and its relationship with the federal government. Decisions made now regarding supply management and provincial autonomy could reshape Canadian politics and federalism for generations. All eyes are on Alberta as it stakes its claim and sets new terms for how it will participate in the Canadian Federation. Albertans face a defining choice: continue to accept marginalization under federal policies that don't serve their interests, or stand up and demand the respect and control they believe their province deserves. DANIELLE Smith's leadership captures this pivotal moment, offering a vision of Alberta as a confident, assertive province that refuses to be sidelined. Whether Mark Carney's government breaks down the wall Alberta is building or whether that wall becomes a lasting barrier remains to be seen. But one thing is certain: Alberta's voice is louder and more determined than ever before, and the province is ready to be heard.